I lost a subscriber. I think reviews like this are not going to help get them back. Um, yeah, so I found myself doing my rewriting the Oscars for 1992, and I was like, oh my god, there's some heavy hitters here I haven't seen. I should watch them. Unfortunately, as with most 1992 films, it didn't have audio description. This one, no. At least it's not hosted with audio description. And then that's Malcolm X, which I found on HBO MAX, because they actually have a decent back catalog of titles due to the fact that they also stream everything that's running on Turner Classic Movies. So that helped. And it's also a Warner Brothers title, which means they could invest the money if they wanted to, but they just choose not to. Anyway, this is directed by Spike Lee. And yeah, I'd never seen it. I was in elementary school in 1992, so this is sort of like an age thing. When we grow up and we become film lovers, we do go back and we start watching as many things as possible and inhaling them, but that doesn't mean I've seen everything. It doesn't mean that I watched every movie from before I was able to watch them. So this one slipped through the cracks and was one that I really felt like shouldn't anymore. So I tried to rectify that problem. It's something I know I should have seen a long time ago. But so now I'm a white guy. I'm a blind white guy commenting on Malcolm X, a Spike Lee film, which, yeah, I get it. I got the impression from the film that I don't think Malcolm would appreciate that too much. So I understand the irony here. But I review films. It's what I do. And I'm not necessarily reviewing the life of Malcolm X, although Spike Lee did a really good job to try to include as much of that here as humanly possible, to almost to a fault. The film is 3.5 hours long. It's yeah, I can't say it earns its runtime. I can't say that it deserved it. I could see it being 3 hours, which is weird for me to say, by the way, that I can actually see that Spike Lee justified 3 hours of film. I just don't know that he justified 3.5. We spent a lot of time in Malcolm's pre everything, just pre fame, pre public speaker, pre Muslim, pre everything days, back when he was a criminal and back when he was growing up. And normally a film wouldn't invest nearly as much time on that. In one sense, I applaud Spike Lee for being willing to present Malcolm X, not the director of The Best Man, Malcolm X. Malcolm X as a criminal, but at the same time, and devote so much time to it, not just like as a passing reference, like, oh, by the way, we can't ignore the fact that he was arrested that one time for B&E, but it spends quite a bit of time. I think like the first hour of the film is not really that important. There are bits and pieces of it that are. I wouldn't like throw the baby out with the bathwater there. I think you can take some and throw out the rest, but there's definitely some stuff there that could have been cut out. And then once the film kicks in and you get into sort of that feeling that, okay, so this is the Malcolm that we've talked about historically, that's when the film sort of starts to sail. Malcolm starts saying things that are incendiary or also really important. He's the kind of, I mean, that's, you should know who Malcolm X is. Don't make me explain Malcolm X. It captures a lot of his speeches and a lot of the things that he said. There's one where they talk about, about him, is he going to go talk to the United Nations, and just some really good stuff in there. Whether or not he's racist, and you hear different comments throughout the movie, and you can, I don't know, you could draw your own conclusion. I don't know. Spike Lee had some amazing intentions here, and they're all over the place. And I think he is okay with his protagonist being flawed. And when it's such a public figure like Malcolm X, that we've already sort of accepted their flaws. We've already accepted the fact that they might have come with baggage, and yet they still represent something. They still stand for something. They still matter. And Denzel Washington does a really terrific job in his performance as Malcolm X. And like I said, this film soars in the moments when he gets to do his thing, his public speaking. Those are the best moments, is when Denzel is actually kind of going through that and using what drew people to him, using what made him such an attractive firebrand at this time. And I don't know if it's my favorite Denzel performance, but it's definitely up there. Like, I completely understand why he got an Oscar nomination. I think he got an Oscar nomination. And it's, yeah, I mean, it really solidifies an early part of Denzel's career of why he is an acting legend now, why he is where he is. It's the kind of performance that Denzel really does well in, with roles with lots of dialogue. Denzel's not really a quiet person that sits and stares. He needs to be able to speak and have those boisterous lines. That's why, Shakespeare was a natural fit for him. Hand him a script, let him read it. Angela Bassett also pops up here as Betty Shabazz, and I gotta say, she's okay, but it's hard to be anybody but Malcolm in this movie, because he takes up so much space and time and focus, that really Angela's biggest scene is reacting to his death, which obviously they show. And if you thought that was a spoiler, I read a history book. I'm sorry, maybe that's why I lose is because I assume everybody knows history. Right now somebody's watching this and being like, I was gonna watch that 1992 film, but I didn't know how it ended, and now I know. I don't know. Whatever. Yeah, it's the crux of her performance lies in her reaction to things, her reaction to the terrible phone calls, and just kind of at the end is when it picks up. Otherwise, we're really focused on Malcolm and what it is that Malcolm is doing, and how Malcolm is affecting change. I kind of like the way that he ended. I did think it was kind of weird that it was a choice, and I don't necessarily understand it, but maybe it's because I didn't visually understand this film didn't have audio description, but I still don't understand how the audio description would have explained it. But at the end, we have a teacher who's talking about Malcolm X to a group of little kids, and then they all kind of stand up and say, I am Malcolm X. And I obviously don't know the races of any of them, but I'm going to guess they were probably all black, and they didn't have white kids. It just doesn't feel like a Spike Lee thing, where he's there's a whole bunch of white kids standing up and saying, I am Malcolm X. So I'm going to guess they're probably all black, but they started out being pretty, like, American black. For some reason, it just transitions progressively more African, and I know at the same time you've got the speaker who's like, he was an Afro-American. He and like driving home that term And then we end with another teacher who has clearly like an African accent. Okay, I don't like, he transcended the world. I don't know. I don't know that I needed the progression of accents though, because it does kind of feel like a progression. Like you get the kid with like a slight accent that slides into the kid with the stronger accent, because and then finally the teacher who's, you know, really obvious. Anyway, I bet they're real kids too. There's a feeling in that moment that they're not actors, which is interesting. But anyway, it's a nice little wrap up to the film. The problem is it doesn't have audio description, so I miss a lot of the moments in between. I miss a lot of the what's happening in the background during the speeches. Are we actually watching him stand there and speak, or is he speaking over something else? Like, are we watching the trials and tribulations of Black people during this time period? To put it mildly, I guess. Like, what is it that we're seeing in this film? Also, finally, the assassination scene was a mess for me. I didn't realize it was like that. I mean, historically, I knew, of course, that Malcolm got shot, but that dude is popping off rounds, and I didn't quite follow when, at what point, you know what I'm saying? So that crux of the moment where he gets, I used crux twice in the same review. Wow, I don't even use that word that much. But that moment when Malcolm gets hit and is killed is kind of lost, because I'm now in my 2023 phase where I'm just like, mass shootings, man, like all over the place. And to me, it just felt like a mass shooting, because I mean, there was just so much gunfire. So I was kind of lost, and I was like, how many people died? Like, I don't even know the answer to that question coming out of the movie. I don't know if it was just Malcolm, but that dude was firing. I wouldn't be surprised if other people got hit. So, yeah, it's just, I left with some questions, with a lot of questions. At the top of the film, there are some characters, and I didn't assume that there would be a lot of white people in this. But at the beginning of the film, when Malcolm is kind of fucking around with white girls, I didn't actually realize the girls were white until he brought it up. I didn't realize that. And then there was like one girl, and I was like, okay, so this one girl is, and I'm trying to follow her voice, even though I don't know who she is. And then it turns out like another girl is white, and it actually kind of becomes relevant to the plot. So having audio description that's around that would have been able to tell me or describe these people to me would have been really helpful. Because I definitely lost some of that impact of the immediate sort of like, ooh, this is taboo for the time period. And then got there eventually, but I don't know, I enjoyed those scenes, in a different way because of the lack of audio description. I'm not going to say that this film is completely unintelligible to watch, but for a 3.5 hour film, it has plenty of time where, I mean, this is a film that's ripe for audio description. It has enough in there to be able to really provide some really rich audio description, but at the same time, it's also the kind of film that, because of its historical significance, would actually stay around. Like, I'm sure people show Malcolm X today still in places, in film schools and regular schools and wherever. I'm sure wherever they are, they're not banning critical race theory. I'm sure Malcolm X is still relevant today. So not Florida, but yeah, other places. This feels like a film that you could still show to people, and you want to make it accessible. So it should be something that runs with accessibility. And I'm sure this was around on HBO for Black History Month. Maybe this is a title for Black History Month that HBO really should. I mean, there are blind black people, right? I feel like they want audio description for something like this, so they want to be able to like understand the totality of it without sitting down with their family and having their family have to explain everything that's going down with them. Anyway, yeah, it's just, I feel like this is a title that's earned the right to go back and have audio description added to it, and it just hasn't happened. It's not my favorite Spike Lee film. I think it's a good Spike Lee film. This is not my favorite. I just think it runs a little long. I think 3.5 hours is a bit much. I love Black Klansman and Inside Man are probably tied for my top two. I don't know that I could choose between the two of them. I think they're both excellent. So, those are probably my top two. But yeah, it's a solid effort from Spike Lee, and I understand the Oscar love for it. For me, I was just kind of trying to catch up on another 1992 film. Unfortunately, this didn't have audio description, and unfortunately, I got a little bit lost. So, my ability to enjoy this film is somewhat limited, and 3.5 hours is a bit much. So, it's time to grade it. Yeah, I'm gonna give Malcolm X a B+. Most of my problems just lie within the first third of the film, and then like the second 2/3 of the film are really pretty solid. They just need audio description. So there we go. I'm not going to say it's unwatchable. I was able to follow it. A lot of it's very speaky. Malcolm was known for talking, so for making speeches, which makes it a little bit easier to follow, but I'm not going to say that I was able to follow everything. So, unfortunately. I mean, I wouldn't outright recommend this to blind people and be like, hey, yeah, this is a film you should watch without audio description. Anyway, thanks for watching, thanks for subscribing and not dropping me. If you're new to my channel, please click subscribe. I want to keep growing. I'm trying to continue the conversation about audio description, so having a social media reach is really important to me. And reminding people that blind people watch movies too. So I have a website, macmovieguy.com. You can go to Twitter or Instagram and follow me at macmovieguy. You can go to the audio description project, adp.acb.org. It'll let you know what does have audio description where you can watch it. And you can go to the ADNA.org. That's the ADNA.org. It'll let you know who is working on the narration for your favorite films and television series. That's it for me today. I will watch something else for you guys and see you on the other side.